Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Friday edition of The Sweat. I'm your host, Jessie Coffield. 60 minutes of DFS and sports betting advice. That's this show in a nutshell. We're going to talk about Week 16 in the NFL and cover tonight's hockey slate, but let's kick things off in the association. I've got DraftKings contributor Greg Ehrenberg here for NBA Building Blocks. Greg, I need you to tell me who the top plays are at each position for tonight's 10-game NBA slate. So let's start at center.
So I'm looking at Andre Drummond here. Blake Griffin only was back for one game before he hurt his knee again. And the other thing also is that it looks like Drummond's finally over his avocado issue because he played last game. He looked pretty good. And overall, if we look at his numbers with Griffin off the court this season, they've been really good. The first few games of the season, he was a monster before Griffin came back from off-season knee surgery. So I think that he's going to have to carry the Pistons offense until Griffin's healthy again.
All right, how about your building block at forward?
Yeah, so at forward, I'm looking at Kristaps Porzingis. Similarly to Drummond, he's also benefiting from a star on his team being out. Luka Doncic still out with an ankle injury. And Porzingis, the last couple of games, he scored over 50 DK points in both games with Doncic out. And that shouldn't really come as too much of a surprise because we look at Porzingis' numbers for the year without Luka on the court. He has a 36% usage rating, and he's scoring 55 DK points per 36 minutes.
All right, who are you looking at guard?
So at guard, there's a lot of ways we could go in terms of Raptors value plays today. And one guy that I think really stands out is Kyle Lowry, really plus matchup against the Wizards. And then also, if we look at all the injuries on Toronto right now, Fred VanVleet's questionable. He's missed the last 5 games. Now we have Marcus Gasol's out, Pascal Siakam's out, and Norman Powell's out. So Kyle Lowry, as the one all-star left on the team, he's going to have to play really well over the next stretch of games for the Raptors to be competitive at all because they just have nobody left on the roster.
Yeah, he'll cost you $8,500. All right. $8,500, kind of expensive. What about a value play?
Yeah, so as a value play, another Raptor that I really think makes sense here is Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. There really is basically anybody who's healthy for the Raptors today could really be considered in play. All of them have value to their price tags. But if we look at Hollis-Jefferson, he played really well earlier in the year when Serge Ibaka was out, and now he's going to probably step into the same kind of role. He could even move into the starting lineup. And whenever we've seen him play 20-plus minutes, he's been really good. And then generally whenever he plays less minutes than that, he's just not a good DFS play. But playing 20-plus minutes, he's averaging 25 DK fantasy points so far this year. And I think he's a pretty good chance to push for over 30 tonight.
All right, thank you, Greg. Going to have you back at the end of the show to talk about some interesting sportsbook plays. But in the meantime, Adam Kaufman caught up with Broncos' Deonte Spencer. Take a look.
This guy right here, Deonte Spencer, Pro Bowl receiver and returner for the Denver Broncos. Deonte, that has to feel pretty good hearing that, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it feels real good, man. Just my journey to get here and just to have that recognition, man, is awesome.
Well, congrats on being an alternate, obviously. Just what's it mean to you, going beyond, obviously, talking about the journey to where you are now?
I mean, it means a lot, man, just because, I know what it took for me to get here, the ups, the downs, and to be in this position and to have it, finally paying off and just to have just the opportunity just to even play in the NFL. It's tremendous accomplishment, and I'm just excited, just to continue my career.
So a free trip to Orlando for the Pro Bowl wouldn't be so bad then?
Oh, no, I definitely wouldn't turn that down.
How excited would you be if you get to go?
I'll be very excited, man. I plan on, if I get the chance to go, bringing my family up there and letting them experiencing that and just taking in everything, man. I'm sure it's going to be exciting. I'm just looking forward to whatever happens.
It'd be a literal trip to Disney World for you, basically, right? It's like those commercials.
Yeah, I've never been to Disney World either, so that'd be a first.
Yeah, that'd be all right. You got to try the Avatar ride if you do go. But let's talk about that journey of yours, okay? Because you spent some time with the Rams and Steelers and also clearly in the CFL with Toronto and Ottawa. So this situation in Denver, while the weather might be somewhat similar, the rest of it is not. What's the transition been like going from an all-star in that league to now in the NFL?
It's been crazy. Just kind of getting in the swing of everything and kind of get accustomed to the NFL life is very different. The CFL was, you only could be up there like 4 hours a day, something like that. So just the time and the work you got to put into this, it's a lot. And it's something that I knew I had to put in just to be great at this game, coming from a different league. And I think everything's kind of paying off. And just on the field, I feel like it's really not that much of a difference. I'm a fast guy, so I just try to stay fast and use my speed.
So because of those time restrictions in that league to, again, where you are now, does it feel like almost more of a job being in the NFL? And I say that in the best possible way, but, the amount of commitment that goes into it in this league versus that one.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a business. You get that feel as soon as you walk through the door. I feel like each and every day you got to come in prepared, ready to work and put your best foot forward. And, it's something, like I said, every single day you step on the field, it's kind of like a job interview. So it's definitely a business, and you can definitely tell the difference between that.
So not just climbing from the CFL to the NFL, you're an undrafted guy, at least you were. So what is the responsibility or the pressure like being someone who wasn't taken in the draft to, try and work your way from a mini camp invite to a practice squad to onto an NFL roster and being part of it, part of the 45, 46 guys each and every week just to be in the NFL and earn your keep?
I wouldn't say it would be pressure. Just like you said, being undrafted and being a guy that was always, under the 8 ball, people doubted to get to this point. It's one of those things where I just feel it's not pressure. I go out there and, it's kind of something like I have nothing to lose. So I'm out there just trying to do my best. And it's really not pressure. I go out there and perform, and, I'm 100%, knowing my abilities and what I can do, and I just play football. So I feel like it's not pressure, and that kind of makes it, pretty easy. People saying you couldn't get here and to finally do it, it's no pressure at all.
So just the culture there, especially, from where you were to where you are now, is everybody pretty supportive, or does the internal competition kind of overshadow that? Because like you talked about, it is a business.
I feel like everybody's been real supportive. I feel like most people know my journey and, where I come from. So they always, support me and wishing me the best. A lot of my teammates, hopefully I can get in the end zone soon because they stay on me about that. So I told them if I would have been in the CFL, I might have had like three or four touchdowns already.
So is there a good amount of internal ribbing that way? The guys give you grief?
Yeah, it's a little give and take. I mean, I'm always kind of giving it out, so they always dishing it back. So
yeah, you got to be able to take it, right?
I'm hard on myself, so yeah.
I can't believe it's week 16, but here we are. And I know everyone is chomping at the bit for football because there was no Thursday night game, TNF. All right. Say hello to DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler, Steve Buchanan. Jeff Ulrich is on the call and might be joining us, not here at the moment. And we have the fantasy girl, Rosalie Michaels. So, guys, this is NFL Chaser Fade, Saturday Slate edition. Agree or disagree with the following statements about tomorrow's 3-game slate. All right, Texans at Buccaneers. In the first game of the Saturday slate, both teams can score, but the total touchdown line is set at 6.5 TDs with an over going for plus 155. Reed, chase or fade that these two teams can go over that number?
Yeah, I'm going to chase this. I'm a little trepidatious about it because, and this is not because these guys can't score. We've seen Tampa Bay over the last 3 be first in the NFL in average touchdowns per game at around 4.5. And on the season, they have just about 1 touchdown less than that. When you look at the Tampa Bay side, is who's going to get all of those touchdowns, right? We know that offense is prolific in the pass game, but that's the concern that I have just a little bit. Houston on the road, they average about 3 touchdowns, so you don't worry about that. It's just on the Tampa Bay side, who's going to get all those touchdowns? I'm still going to say it's going to go over just because both of these offenses can pass the ball very well.
Steve, chase or fade these teams can go over that number?
Take the plus money. Don't even think about this one. I mean, who is going to stop the offense on either side of the ball here? These are two putrid defenses that are playing against each other. This is by far the highest total on the slate, as you imagine, at 50 points. The Buccaneers allowing an average of 34.7 points over the last 3 games. The Texans at 25.3. I understand this is a very high number, but getting plus money on this for as high as it is, a plus 155, I think you just got to roll with it here because I would hate taking the under here. I don't see teams, kicking field goals in this one. I know we have some concerns about the Buccaneers offense, kind of like what Reed alluded to, but if Rashad Perryman can go for 3 touchdowns in 1 week, I think he can go, at least for 1 in this game against a Texans secondary that has just been so banged up, giving up so many points on a week-to-week basis. So 100% taking the over on this one.
And I'm getting word that Jeff Ulrich has joined the chat. Jeff has entered the chat. Welcome,
I figured
Jeff.
out how to turn my camera on. So
we are proud of you. We're so proud of you. So
the microphone off, though.
Man, let him keep his mic on. So let's chase your fade, Jeff, that these two teams can go over 6.5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, look, like Steve said, you're getting plus 155. I would take the over, too. Just look at what Houston has done. I mean, through the last 4 games, they've hit this over. Against Tennessee, a slow-paced team, they hit 6 touchdowns last week. And Tampa Bay has been hitting this almost every week as well. I mean, I just don't see how these two teams, with good passing offenses, even with the injuries in the wide receiver core to Tampa Bay, and absolutely terrible defenses, it's really hard to see this not going over, which sounds shocking because 7 touchdowns is a lot, but I'd be shocked it doesn't hit.
Rosalie, does this just have to go over here?
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page here. To their point, and he was talking about how Tennessee is a slower paced team, but these two teams are higher paced, especially Tampa Bay, second most plays per game at 69 plays per game. So that's the sound of touchdown bombs happening all game long.
I love it.
Whistling on cue. It's pretty impressive. I would
that was a great sound
Am I
effect.
whistling?
Yeah, on cue. I
Yeah,
wasn't terrible at that.
The
All
professional stuff here.
Professional whistler. All right, so we're all in agreement on that one. How about the Bills chasing down the Patriots? A game back and heading to Foxborough, 6.5-point underdog. Steve, a Bills money line win gets you plus 245. So chase or fade that Josh Allen can lead the Bills to an upset against Tom Brady and co.
Look, the money line is enticing, but it's set that way it is for a reason. I just hyped up the plus money for the touchdowns, and now I'm going to poo-poo all over this money line here. Personally, I'd be more comfortable taking the spread for the Bills here. You look at the Patriots, they failed to cover in 5 of their last 6 games against teams with winning records. Like, this would be one of those scenarios where I feel like the Buffalo Bills could cover the spread rather than take the money line here. The problem with the Bills is they just have issues scoring, averaging 20.8 points per game this season. This Patriots defense is prolific. I know they've had some issues on the ground, but I'm having a hard time thinking Josh Allen is going to do enough to bring down the Patriots and go against that defense. I'm not sitting here saying this is going to be a high-scoring game. I'm not saying the Patriots are going to go out and dominate, but I just don't see a clear path for the Bills to come out and win this game. I'd much rather take the spread.
Jeff, where do you sit on this one?
This just feels like such a trap. You've got the public betting Buffalo at 6.5. People are on the bandwagon and saying they have a chance. Now, they beat Pittsburgh on the road last week. I'm going to side with New England. I don't think this is a good bet. I really just feel like they're walking into something. Foxborough this time of year, it just does not happen. This is still basically a top 3 defense in the league Josh Allen is going up against. And I know they did pretty good against Pittsburgh last week. Pittsburgh has so many offensive issues that they actually make the Patriots look like an offensive juggernaut. So I just don't put as much stock into that as some people. Maybe I'm the one who's off my rocker, and that's quite possible, but I think the Patriots are going to win this by more than a touchdown.
Rosalie, is Jeff off his rocker?
He is not off his rocker. He is completely right. Patriots are 5-0 against the Bills the last 5 games. There's a reason. They know how to beat the Buffalo Bills. It may not be pretty, but it's going to happen. And, this happens every year for some reason with the Patriots. It comes to December, and for some reason we're doubting who they are and what they can do. Happened last year in that Super Bowl run. Same thing. You remember that video with Tom Brady and Gronkowski after the Super Bowl going, well, we told you that this is what was going to happen. When you look at that Patriots defense, here's everything they're number 1 in. Points per game, yards per game, points per play, yards per play, third down conversion. They are number 1 in touchdowns per game. This is a hard defense to score on. And for the Buffalo Bills, who have a hard time, as Steve mentioned, scoring in the first place, it's going to be really difficult for them to get by the Patriots this week.
Reed,
Yeah.
do you think they can get by the Pats?
No, especially a touchdown, right? That's what confuses me with this, is that we've seen it time and time again. In division, the Patriots are 14-2 since 2017 in the division by beating teams by close to more than two touchdowns, actually, in that margin of victory. So, I mean, the Patriots, we have to treat, and I mentioned this earlier, we have to treat all of these division games kind of in a vacuum, right? Like, the Patriots know the Bills. Doesn't matter the personnel. Doesn't matter Josh Allen is playing better. The Patriots are a machine, especially on defense. We've seen Josh Allen turn over a bunch. Yeah, this is going to be the Patriots all the way.
Well, the game total for Bills-Pats is set at a low 37.5. Jeff, the Pats have struggled to get their offense going, so chase or fade that we see the under in this one, even with this low total.
Yeah, they're kind of begging you to take the over here. I think I actually might bite. I really feel like New England is going to be able to move the ball a little bit. They kind of got on track a little bit against Cincinnati. And Buffalo, for all their goodness, I mean, they do have a pretty solid defense. They don't really have that great a pass rush. They can be run against a little bit. I just feel like if New England just gets going a little bit at the start of this game, the floodgates could open. And look, Josh Allen, yeah, I mean, maybe he hasn't gone up against a ton of good defenses, but he can definitely move the ball a little bit. So I don't think Buffalo is necessarily going to have to put up too many points. I think the Patriots are gonna have this go over. I really do. I feel like if I think the Patriots are gonna win and maybe cover the spread here, then I should be taking the over. So I'm gonna.
Rosalie, over or under for you?
I'm confused because I thought I agreed with Jeff there, and then he did a switcheroo, and I'm like,
Yeah,
wait a minute,
yeah.
I don't agree
Now
with
you
Jeff.
get it. It's every day of my life with Jeff.
Chase, I'm chasing this. It's under, I just mentioned all the reasons why Buffalo can't score against the Patriots. Buffalo's D, to Jeff's point, is really good too. They're number 2 in points per game, right behind the Patriots. They're also number 3 in touchdowns per game. So, and then when you look at the situational trends of the over-under for these two teams, New England within the division, 1-3, hitting the over. Buffalo in the last 5 games, 1-4. Buffalo in away games, 1-6. I said that New England was going to win this and it wasn't going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be low scoring, just like the last game, and it's going to go under.
Reed, you think this is going under?
Yeah, and it's freezing up here, right, Steve? I mean, that has to have something. I'm just kidding. Yes. Yeah, I agree. I'd like to rehash the points that Rosalie and Jeff made. This is, Rosalie specifically, because I agree with her in the under. And just in the division, right, the Patriots and the Bills, just in division, we've seen it. It kind of feels like this, like a 2017 game, which kind of gets you to hit that over right at 37. The defensive touchdowns do scare me because those really push these for a backdoor over in that sense. But I feel like this is going to be under. It's going to be a lot of run game from Devin Singletary and company.
Steve, going to be freezing. Got to take the under here, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about that plenty on Sunday. Oh, no, it's actually not going to be there. So, yeah, whatever. Who cares? No one cares. These teams play in the cold. It's football. Get over it. 36.5, man, this is such a low total. But you look at the last game these teams played, combined 26 points. And these are two of the worst teams at hitting the over on their game total. New England 5-9 on the year. Buffalo tied for worst in the league with the Steelers at 3-11. Like, Reed makes a great point about, maybe the backdoor covers there with a couple of those defensive touchdowns. That is certainly something that is in play, especially with a guy like Josh Allen against a Patriots team who just picked off Andy Dalton, what was it, like 9 times last week? That's at least what it felt like. That's definitely a concern, but like with the way these two offenses play, the depletion of weapons in the Patriots offense, I'm kind of leaning towards the under here as well. It's just, I know it's a very, very low total. You're not going to feel great about taking this bet, but at least what we've seen so far this year, these are two teams that just do not score a lot of points. So I think the total is where it is. It's a tough total to take the under on, but rolling with the under.
All right, guys, the nightcap on Saturday finds the Rams in desperate need of a win to keep their playoff hopes alive, facing the 49ers. Rosalie, the last time these two teams played, San Fran had a 20-7 win, but this game total is set at 44. Chaser fade that this game once again goes under the total.
Yeah, I'm actually, I'm fading it because, yeah, it was only 27 points, total points last time. And, division rivalries, I love these, especially here in the NFC West. Because, yeah, it was 27 points last time. But if you look at the 4 games they played each other before that, point totals were 80, 49, 47, and 80. These teams like to put up points against each other, and it's going to happen. That San Francisco, as of late, has just been rolling. They're really clicking on all their cylinders. They're scoring about 30 points per game. And even if and their defense is doing really well, they're holding opposing teams to about 18 points per game. So even if the Rams only score 18 points in this game, they're still going to hit that over at 45. So I like it. I think that they're really rolling. They're scoring a lot of points lately, these 49ers. So I'm going over here.
Reed, are you going to chase or fade that this game goes under the total of 44?
I'm going to chase it, and if you just look at Jared Goff, and it's really not, San Francisco can really play up to the up to the teams that they need to score a lot, or down and play those slog fests like we saw in Baltimore. But just like, and to what Rosalie was saying, these division games, especially in the NFC West, these tend to go under. And what we see just with the Rams, they're one of the worst teams to cover the over at 5-9 this season. In division, they're 1-3. They just can't get anything going. I don't have any confidence. I don't know which which Jared Goff is going to show up. I know which Jeff doesn't show up. That's
He
Ulrich.
wishes he was Jeff Goff.
I know, no kidding. But look, Jared Goff plays bad against bad defenses and good against good defenses. San Francisco's a good defense. I'm going to say under.
All right, Steve, are you going over or under 44?
I keep hearing that San Francisco's, has a good defense. They've allowed an average of 31.7 points over the last 3 games. This is not the same defense that we've seen in the beginning of the year. This is a team that you can score on lately. And then Jared Goff on the road. I know that Jared Goff is not somebody that we tab for consistency. He's never going to have that word on his resume, but at least he's been playing better on the road than he has at home, and that's the matchup that he has here this week. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. I think that they should have no problem going on the over on this total here. People just keep being scared by this 49ers defense. But quite frankly, they've been giving up a ton of points as of late. Stop fearing this 49ers defense. It's not the same group of players.
Go ahead, Jeff Goff.
Yeah, no, I 100% on board with Steve and Rosalie here. Of all the bets we've talked about, taking the over here is my favorite bet. Look, since week 9, San Francisco's allowed an average of over 26 points per game. I mean, like Steve said, this isn't really a good defense right now. They're allowing a ton of yards, and their offense is clicking too. Like Jimmy Garoppolo is playing at a high level. Look, Jared Goff still put up 21 points, whatever, in garbage time against Dallas. But it might be a similar scenario where San Francisco puts up 30 points. The Rams just have to do a little bit in garbage time to get here. So I think 45 is way too low. Rosalie mentioned some of the history between these two teams. They have shot out a lot of times over the past couple of years. I think this total is way too low. The over is probably my favorite bet for Saturday.
Wait, Jeff, how many points did the Rams put up last week?
I don't know.
What was it, 6? Like a
20?
couple?
20?
Yeah, exactly.
21.
Like the defense is not good,
21.
but neither is this offense.
21.
The Rams offense is not the offense we saw from last year. I mean, that's the more
If the
inconsistent
Rams
part.
put up 21 points, Reed, this is going to hit over for sure.
They put up
because
6
San Francisco's
against the
favored by
Cowboys.
6.5,
The Cowboys are a
and the
terrible
score's
28
28 versus Seattle.
Yeah, but it's
Sure.
just like, I know Steve's getting irritated at this, but like, how do we trust the Rams?
Look at all the
No,
weapons.
say
They've
it
got the
with
weapons.
me.
No, we don't.
They've got the weapons to do it. Sure they do.
All right, book the tape, mark it.
All right, mark the tape.
Book the tape.
Again.
Mark,
Hopefully Marlon Mack's not in this game.
mark
Marlon
the
Mack is a good
tape.
play this week, and you know it, Steve.
Oh my God, stop,
was fun.
please, for the love of God. Excellent work, you guys. We marked the tape. You'll be back in a few for a chalk report. Hockey is next, but first, here's this week's edition of Levitan's Leverage.
2 weeks left in the regular season for Levitan's Leverage. I don't know where the time goes. He's Adam Levitan. I'm Adam Kaufman. So, Levy, let's start with Devontae Freeman, okay? The Falcons running back has a great matchup at home against the horrible Jaguars run defense, and that should help since he's only found the end zone 1 time this year on the ground. But do you feel good about him at a season-high $6K?
Yeah, one thing about being season high in price is also he saw season best usage last week, handled over 80% of the Falcons running back touches. And with these dead teams, I like to see when they're extending their veterans. Falcons obviously got a big boost by pulling that upset in San Francisco last week. So coming home, I think they'll want to play well, and Devontae Freeman gives them the best chance to win. And he's been extremely matchup sensitive. In other words, he's performed really poorly in bad matchups and performed very well in good matchups. I think we can safely say this is a good matchup.
Well, another favorable matchup here for Amari Cooper, as it's basically a must-win game for the Cowboys in Philadelphia with the East hanging in the balance. So there's a little extra motivation there maybe. Cooper, very good in the matchup. 5 catches, 106 yards in Week 7 against the Eagles, and now 6,700. But are you at all concerned about his production with Dak Prescott just all sorts of banged up?
Yeah, it's a concern for sure. I mean, Dak Prescott has an AC joint sprain in his shoulder. I think if they put him out there, though, they'll expect him to play well. And you know, Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills, the Eagles corners, just have no prayer of slowing down Amari Cooper. So whether it's Cooper Rush or whether it's a limited Dak Prescott or whether it's 100% Dak Prescott, I think that's going to change Amari Cooper's ownership a lot. But his ceiling is going to remain because he's just going to be running free all over the place against the Eagles. So, yeah, we've introduced more risk with the injury to Dak, but I don't think that the ceiling has changed at all.
One more wide out here. That's the Broncos' Cortland Sutton, 6,200 at home against the lousy Lions. Obviously, chemistry with Drew Lock. We've seen that already. A little inconsistent, maybe. Are you playing the matchup here since he has the NFL's second worst defense on the other side, or something else?
Yeah, I mean, Cortland Sutton is just talented and has dominated all matchups this year. You know, spots where I thought he couldn't win, you know, against Buffalo and stuff. I mean, Cortland Sutton goes in there and wins. So he'll see a lot of Darius Slay on Sunday. I wouldn't worry about that too much. And maybe I was too low on Drew Lock's ceiling as an NFL passer from a fantasy perspective. He's performed well in spots where I didn't think he could perform well. So Drew Lock now has the best spot that he's seen so far. Home game finally. Home game against the Lions, poor secondary, as you mentioned. So it's at least interesting to bet on Cortland Sutton's talent here.
Time to talk some good old-fashioned hockey with these two, DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich and Awesemo.com's Chris Wassel. Guys, this is NHL opening face-off. You know the drill. I give you 2 players at each position, and you tell me which is the better play on tonight's 4-game slate. So at center, we got Connor McDavid for 7,700 versus Pittsburgh. He's the highest priced center on the slate, or you could go with Austin Matthews for 7,400, taking on the Rangers. He has scored 24.5 fantasy points in his last outing. So where are you going on this one, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, matchup-wise, this says you just take Matthews and you don't think about it. I'm still going to go to Connor McDavid here. The Oilers have been in a bit of a slump, but they have played better their last couple games. They fired a lot of shots in their last loss. And it's not like Pittsburgh is the worst foe in the world. I mean, they have an okay penalty kill, but the Oilers' power play is just, it's been unstoppable at times. And it feels like McDavid is just due. I hate to use that argument that someone's due, but he really is. He's so good that, I mean, going through a little bit of a slump here, you kind of need to buy low. And at under 8K on a 4-game slate, where he might be a little bit under-owned, especially because people are going to flock to all the New York Rangers players and Austin Matthews and some of the Leafs forwards. I think you can take advantage of it here. I think at under 8K, I would go with Connor McDavid.
Chris, you going with McDavid or saving 300 with Austin Matthews?
I'm not saving here. There's no way I'm saving here. Look, the fact that Pittsburgh's a favorite, it just steers me even more to McDavid just because of what he's done in the past against the Penguins. I mean, there's a game where he had a hat trick where he deked out 4 Penguins on one shift. I mean, this is a team that he tends to do well against. He averages over 1.5 points a game in his career against them. He gets 4 scoring chances a game against them. The numbers tend to stack up after a while. And if you want to have some fun tonight, I mean, you know, just go to one of Edmonton's lesser defensemen and don't spend the $6,800 on Oscar Klefbom. Just don't do it for the love of God. There's other options to go, but as far as center, it really is a McDavid type of night with way lower than usual ownership expected on him.
All right, you guys are in agreement on McDavid. How about on the wing? Pittsburgh's Brian Rust has 5 points in his last 2 games and costs $5,500 at Edmonton. Meanwhile, New Jersey's Kyle Palmieri has goals in back-to-back games, and he costs $5,400 versus Washington. So who do you like out of these two, Chris?
I put my Homer hat on for a second here, only not just because I'm going to the game tonight, but you know, Palmieri's found his shot finally, and for what it's worth, probably if he converted a few earlier in the season, he'd have 20-plus goals already on this year. For as much as Rust plays well and such, this could be a poor matchup for Pittsburgh tonight. They could get run out of the building in Edmonton. Edmonton's been, again, generating a ton of chances. They have almost 45 shots against St. Louis the other night, or what it felt like 45 anyway, especially in the third period, and just a boatload of scoring chances that did not go in. You have a feeling that tonight could be the night where Edmonton sees 4 or 5 pucks go in, especially if Matt Murray starts. Murray has struggled mightily as opposed to Tristan Jarry. So there's been a little bit of a power shift as far as the goaltenders in Pittsburgh. And to be perfectly honest, Palmieri at that mid-priced option looks like the better play tonight.
Jeff, where are you going on this one?
Yeah, I think we're kind of in agreement again. I mean, these two probably wouldn't be my top options at this price point, but I do kind of like Palmieri. I mean, with Taylor Hall gone, I feel like there's a little bit of a cloud lifted off the New Jersey Devils, and maybe it's not the greatest matchup, but it's a 4-game slate, and it's not like Washington isn't opposed to getting in some back and forth shootout with teams. Palmieri's usage should only increase on the power play without Taylor Hall. He's a shot first player anyways, so it's not like he's going to be out there setting up other players. I kind of like going up to Jonathan Huberdeau tonight and taking a shot. I know it's a bad matchup, but he's been playing well. That line's been playing pretty well. I would avoid Rust. The Oilers goalie's been playing pretty well, Mikko Koskinen. They're a pretty good defensive team anyways with Dave Tippett and their special teams. So I like avoiding Rust. I definitely like Palmieri over Rust, and I kind of like Huberdeau in this price range too.
Let's talk defensemen. Toronto's Tyson Barrie had 23.3 fantasy points in his last game, and he's 4,700 tonight at the Rangers. Then you have Florida's Aaron Ekblad, who's 4 assists in his last 2 games and is 4,600 versus Dallas. So who you going with on the blue line, Jeff?
Yeah, so I mean, Ekblad wouldn't even be my favorite Panther to target in this range. I like going up to Keith Yandel, who just plays a ton on the power play. And again, I know it's not the greatest matchup, but their power play is top 10. And I'd rather just take the guy who's out there all the time with the man advantage. Ekblad has been good, really good in spurts, but he's very boom or bust. I like Tyson Barrie. I don't mind eating the chalk here with Tyson Barrie. It's a great matchup against the Rangers, as I alluded to earlier. Like a bottom 10 penalty kill. They allow a ton of shots. And Barrie, he had a little bit of an ankle issue, but he bounced back with 2 assists and 6 shots on goals in his last game. And he's a high-volume shooter when he's out there. So they're probably going to see some power plays against the Rangers, who aren't good at defending against the power play. So I would just take the under 5K salary on Barrie. I think he's a really good target.
Chris, do you agree with Jeff's assessment? Think Tyson Barrie's going to have a good night?
Barrie's almost destined to have a pretty good night for Toronto against the Rangers. Look, the Rangers give up 36 shots per 60. They give up one of the highest unblocked shot attempts on the penalty kill in what feels like the history of the league. Over the last 5 seasons, there's the Rangers and basically 4 other teams, which, if you're looking at, not just 1-year total, but say 5-year totals, it's pretty frightening. It doesn't matter who's in net for the Rangers. It really doesn't at this point. Barrie's been employed well by Sheldon Keefe to shoot first and ask questions later, which is probably the way he should have been deployed as far as the power play units in the first place from the beginning of the season. Might have helped his totals a little bit. But it's fortunate for us because he's only 4,700 on DraftKings. He might be 6,000 or 6,500 right now. So you take the value where you can get it. And yes, indeed, I would take Keith Yandel at a couple $100 higher over Aaron Ekblad tonight, just because, well, look, Yandel's more consistent, has 11 points in his last 10 games, and will shoot a little bit more at times on the power play than Ekblad ever would.
All right, guys, only 4 games tonight, which means only 8 available goalies. Which netminder are you looking at tonight, Chris?
This is rough, but unfortunately, it's going to depend on what confirmations come in. It's painful, but I have to go against my team here and go with Braden Holtby tonight against the Devils. Devils have won 2 games in a row, which is probably one too many for them, unfortunately. They don't often enjoy prosperity well. And this is a type of game where, though New Jersey could get a lot of shots, this is the same New Jersey team that barely could muster 20 shots against Anaheim, who was coming off a back-to-back on a East Coast trip on Wednesday night. So the one risk may be shot volume, but to be honest, if somehow Washington gives up more than 2 goals, I'll be very surprised here.
Jeff, who are you looking at between the pipes?
But just one note on that. It looks like Ilya Samsonov is actually confirmed to start for Washington.
They did confirm him finally.
he's been playing well though. So I mean, it's the same vein as Chris's pick, but I don't mind that. It's definitely a safe pick. I like going down and going with Sergei Bobrovsky. Look, the Panthers are actually small home favorites here. Dallas played last night, and it's just a form thing. I mean, when Bobrovsky starts playing well, I like riding him until he stops. And he's posted save percentages of .927 or better in each of his last 6 starts. He's playing very well. He's only allowed 3 goals once in his last 6 starts. I just like riding a hot goalie, a guy who's been streaky throughout his whole career. Like I said, the Panthers have actually been playing okay defensively of late. They're small home favorites, as I already said. He's got a good shot at the win bonus. I like it. I like Bobrovsky for saving money at only 7,600.
All right, guys, slate approved pick time. Jeff, who is your lock on tonight's 4-game slate?
I'm going with Alex Ovechkin. I mean, he hasn't scored much in the last few games, but this just feels like a huge bounce back after the Capitals got shut out in their last game against the Devils. Ovechkin at under 8K. Yeah, I'll take that.
Chris, where are you going?
I'm going Connor McDavid tonight. He just has that look of having a huge night against a Pittsburgh Penguins team that should not be a small road favorite at all.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll be right back with an NFL Chalk report. But for now, here's the Pat Mayo Experience answering the question you've been dying to know the answer to play or not to play Juju if he suits up for Pittsburgh this weekend.
Juju, if he plays, you play him ish?
No, I don't think you have to
at all.
Point.
No,
I would say he's in the conversation. The way that you phrased it made me my thinking, saying like he's an automatic start. I don't think he is an automatic start anymore. I don't think he was an automatic start before he got hurt with the way things are going with his team.
It's a nice matchup against the Jets.
It is, but what if Juju's out there? And I'm not saying that he should be, but what if he's out there like T.Y. Hilton and he's out there he doesn't even need to be a quote unquote decoy because essentially this season he's been a decoy. But what if he's out there at less than 100% to pull some defensive attention, which there's not a lot for the Jets, but this just opens the door even wider for James Washington or Deontay Johnson.
So 31-40, and this is where it gets tricky. I got Thielen at 31, Edelman at number 2, or at 32, sorry. Gallup, John Brown, DK Metcalf, Debo, Cole Beasley, Darius Slayton, Odell, Robbie Anderson is the next 10. I don't know what to do with Edelman, man. Like, he's banged up, he looks gimped up, and now he's just entering the den of pain against the Bills defense. He should be the guy that could figure it out. Like, he's the perfect type of receiver to just pile up catches against the Bills. But if he's not 100%, like, it's not going to work.
No, it's not. And I'll apologize to the person who asked me last week. And they said, are you concerned about Julian Edelman? And I said, absolutely not. He's been playing through this for weeks and 2 straight games. It was 20 points. And I was like, why would you be concerned? Well, there you go. Like, hey, again, I'm sorry, but all the reports told us he had been playing through the same injury. And I go back to those 2 games. He had 20 points in those 2 games, back-to-back weeks. And then it was a letdown. And as you mentioned, he looks banged up, but he kind of looked banged up in those games too. So I'm with you though. Now this week, if coming off that game we just saw, which was a much more favorable matchup, and now he's got the Bills and it's Saturday. So it's a short-ish week. I would hope that you have an option that makes you feel better. Put it this way. You rank them higher. You start Brashard Perriman over him, which is just crazy that you're doing it in the championship game.
Well, sometimes you got to make the gutsy decisions. Like, a lot of people asked me about A.J. Brown versus, like, legit guys last week, and I went with all the legit guys, and I was absolutely wrong about it. But I did say it to people like, listen, if you have conviction about A.J. Brown, play him. Like, go nuts.
So
the guy's been getting you there. If you want to start him over Kenny Golladay, go for it. And if you did, you probably won. If you had listened to me, you probably lost.
I had A.J. Brown on my home league team, which was great to see, especially because Godwin left. Although Godwin had a solid game before he even got hurt. Let me ask you this as a strategy situation, because I get this question a lot too. I'm just curious your outlook on it. So somebody who has Edelman, he plays, let's call it a Thursday night game. You play him with the finding out that the outcome might make another decision for you. So he has a bad game, and now your tiebreak situation is like, well, I'll play a Perriman over a safe play. Whereas if Edelman comes out of that game with a solid performance, then you're like, well, I'll go safe.
Yeah, I think that your matchup should be fluid. This is no different than on DraftKings, that if you are behind the pack in the afternoon slate going into the later set of games, that in the only people that you have left, are projected to be highly owned, even if you even if you think the players you're putting in are worse, you have to do it because you can't catch up. Like if you just have floor guys there and you know that everyone else has those guys, you need to go in a different direction to shoot for some more upside if you want any potential to come back. That's how you use the late swap. And in season long, like the Perrimans, the Will Fullers, the Robbie Anderson type, like deep play guys versus, I don't know, like the Jamison Crowder types. You still could be absolutely wrong. Like we saw Jamison Crowder hit his ceiling last week, but normally he's a guy you think like, 6 for 66 with a bit of upside, where Will Fuller is like 5 for 245 and 3 touchdowns or 0. Like pick your poison. If you're trailing in your game after making a bad decision, there's no more compounding bad decisions. It's already the bad decision. You're already in the hole. Take a swing for the fences. You got to be like that guy from Major League 3 when he was playing for the Buzz.
One more go around with our NFL panel. DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler, Steve Buchanan, and Jeff Ulrich, and the fantasy girl Rosalie Michaels. All right, this is a little segment we call NFL Chalk Report. Quite simply, which players will be chalk, aka highly owned, at their position on Saturday's 3-game slate. So let's start with the quarterback chalk. Who's it going to be, Reed?
It's going to be Deshaun Watson versus Tampa Bay. This is an offense that is humming. It can, right? It's going to be DeAndre Hopkins. Will Fuller looks like he's going to be back in the mix. And Tampa Bay secondary is terrible. We like this. A huge over-under. Give me Deshaun Watson.
Steve, who do you think it's going to be?
I mean, I think this is going to be pretty clear across the board. It's definitely going to be Watson, too. And one thing that Reed did mention that I like seeing from Watson as of late as well is that he's starting to rush a little bit more. 76 yards on 13 attempts over his last 2 weeks. The Buccaneers overall are not a team that's going to stop Watson. They've allowed the third most passing yards to opposing quarterbacks, 292 on average per game. It's 100% going to be Watson.
Jeff, is it going to be Watson?
Yeah, it's going to be Watson. I mean, look, it's just the way the slate is set up. We have one game with like no defense and two teams that like to play at a high pace and throw the ball a lot and have elite receivers, or one team does. One team used to. I do think if we get a clean bill of health on Jameis Winston, he'll probably start getting pretty chalky too. I like going down just to talk about some of the other games a little bit. I like going to that Rams 49ers game. We talked about the potential for some points. I think Jimmy Garoppolo has played really well. San Francisco's averaging almost 30 points over their last few games here. I like going to that game if you want to avoid the chalky QB.
All right, Rosalie, do you agree with these guys? Got to be Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah. And saying to the other side of that game, Winston as well is going to be chalky. He played through the thumb injury last week, had no problems, still threw touchdowns. So, yeah, he's going to be chalky as well, perhaps because people will think nobody's going to be on him because of the lack of wide receiver and the thumb injury. But I like what Jeff said. Garoppolo at 5,500. Yeah, it was 14 fantasy points versus the Rams last time, but this is a different offense now. They're humming along. And San Francisco was able to put up 48 points versus New Orleans and 37 versus Green Bay, both good defenses. And the Rams are not as good of a defense. So Winston will be chalky. Go down to Garoppolo to avoid it.
All right, who's going to be the running back chalk, Steve?
Yeah, so I think this is actually the toughest position to kind of figure out on this slate here, but I'm going to go with James White. You know, the Buffalo Bills have a very strong secondary, so we could have Tom Brady having some issues moving the ball downfield, but James White should be in line for, you know, some good, healthy PPR points with some quick check downs to him. Sony Michel is just not involved in that aspect of the game. Even when he does get involved, he just doesn't catch the ball. I don't know what his problem is. But the Bills are allowing an average of 38 receiving yards to opposing running backs on the year. So at his price point with running back, kind of really nobody stands out on this slate. I think James White's going to be the guy.
Jeff, who's going to be chalky at running back?
I think Todd Gurley is actually pretty clearly going to be the chalk here, and it just comes down to like who else do you trust? I mean, all these other guys are in timeshares or kind of game flow dependent. I mean, we've seen the Rams the last 4 games now. They're marching Todd Gurley out because they basically put themselves in a situation where they have to rely on him because they can't protect their quarterback. The quarterback's not playing well. They can't get the passing game going consistently. So it's Gurley or bust for them until the end of the year. Maybe the matchup scares away some people, but I still feel like Gurley, at a very affordable price point, by the way. I mean, I know he's the most expensive RB, but it's well under $7K. I think he'll easily be the chalk here.
Rosalie, what do you think?
Yeah, with Mostert. There's a lot of Mostert love lately, a lot. Like if you look at Twitter and you see what people, they're all over him, and for good reason. He has a touchdown in each of the last 4 games, and in one of those he had 2 touchdowns, a receiving and a rushing touchdown. And this is the most expensive he's been all year at 6,100. But people are trusting that touchdown ability for Mostert. The thing that scares me about Mostert is I know that at some point Shanahan's going to pull the old switcheroo and we're going to get Breda or Coleman instead of Mostert. And so that scares me off of him. But, the touchdown consistency is there. So he's going to be chalky.
Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just looking at some numbers in terms of ownership that should be bad because all of the guys that Rosalie and Steve and Jeff mentioned are going to be chalky. I personally like the James White call by Steve, and when you look at that game, that seems like the most reasonable approach to take, where Buffalo's giving up a touchdown per game, like over the last 2.5 years, at least one per game to the opposing backfields. But if you look at these other ones, like Carlos Hyde is coming in right with a questionable tag. It looks like he's going to play. A lot of people are going towards Duke Johnson, and that scares me quite a bit. The most targets this guy has seen all season, which is what he is about 6. That really scares me. Even in that game with Tampa Bay's a strong defense, especially on the run. Stay away from that. Go to one of these other guys, and then try to differentiate yourself somewhere else.
All right, how about who's going to be chalky at wide receiver, Rosalie?
This is the one chalk that I'm going to eat up. Chalk this one up because it's Perriman. Perriman at 6K. I talked earlier about the touchdown bombs. Yeah, I usually don't like chasing big games, but this is the one time where I'm chasing Perriman.
Okay, Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement here. I mean, Brashad Perriman, I just don't think people are going to be able to get off. I mean, who else is going to catch the ball? It's a small sample size, but we saw who Jameis Winston obviously is going to favor without his top 2 receivers on the field. I don't think it's necessarily a great thing to be eating chalk, Brashad Perriman chalk, a guy who's been super inconsistent throughout his whole career, but I do think he's going to garner a ton of ownership. Don't forget about Justin Watson here. And if you want a really low-owned play on like a 4-game slate, Brandon Cooks might push like under 5% ownership. So obviously it's just a GPP pivot, but he should be coming in really low.
Reed, who's going to be the chalk at wide receiver?
I think it has a lot to do with what running back that people go to. If they're saving on James White, you're probably paying up to DeAndre Hopkins again in that game. But at the same time, right, if you're paying down, if you're paying for Gurley, you have to go with Perriman or one of these other people like Will Fuller. I think Will Fuller is going to be a guy that a lot of people are going to go towards in that game as a secondary option. Maybe not necessarily getting all those targets that a guy like DeAndre Hopkins goes to. But to what Jeff was saying, I get what he's looking at with Brandon Cooks. Man, he's hard to trust. Deebo Samuel is in that same price tag. Again, we talked about that San Francisco game. I like that receiver in that game. But it's going to be, depending on where you go at running back, I think it has a lot to do with where you go at wide receiver.
Steve, what do you think?
I mean, I don't care where you go at running back. DeAndre Hopkins is the answer for me. I mean, even with Will Fuller in the mix, and, I understand that, he loses some of his target share when Will Fuller's on the field. But even last week when Fuller was active, 20.9 DraftKings fantasy points, 6 receptions, 119 yards. That was against the Titans. Now he's facing a Buccaneers team that's allowed the most fantasy points to wide receivers. They're averaging 42 points over the last 4 games. Teams against the Buccaneers. It's just, Hopkins is the guy. I know that his price tag is high, but there is an easy way to get him into your lineup. Like, don't even overthink this. Get Hopkins in there.
Finally, who do you think is going to be chalky at tight end, Rosalie?
I think it's going to be Darren Fells because he's cheap. He's 3K plus the matchup, and they know, again, this is an air raid type of game. But Tampa Bay's actually been pretty good against the tight end at home. They only allowed Evan Engram to go for only over 20 fantasy points. So you're getting a touchdown dart throw out of him, but at 3K, I don't hate it. But I think this is one of those areas where I pay up for Kittle. He's just too consistent, 21.3 fantasy points versus the Rams the first time. And I think the San Francisco offense is better now than they were then. And they're going to go to him again. He's just, what did he have, like 14 targets, 17 targets last week?
74 targets last week.
74 seems a bit high, Reed.
Yeah, wow.
74.
Yeah.
74 targets last week. Wow.
Yeah. Huge target share.
Well, Reed what do you think? Tight end.
Yeah, it's going to be Tyler Higbee. Even if Gerald Everett comes back, or he's active. This guy is just seeing so many targets. Jared Goff looks at him as a security blanket. And we look at the 49ers defense against opposing tight ends. We saw Jared Cook get 2 touchdowns on 2 receptions. Austin Hooper didn't do that well, but even going back to that Baltimore game, Mark Andrews had a touchdown on 50 yards with 3 receptions. It's going to be Higbee.
Steve.
I'm actually kind of rolling with O.J. Howard here. If this isn't the week that O.J. Howard does anything, then I don't ever want to roster him again. I have a list of guys that I never want to roster. He's going to make that list if he does nothing this week. He saw 8 targets last week, which was a season high. No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. This has just been such a bad year for Howard. It's almost amazing at the lack of production he's had. But now he's facing a Texas team that allows an average of 13.5 DraftKings fantasy points to the tight end position. For the love of God, Howard, this has got to be your week. We all believe in you. Well, some of us do, but this has got to be it for Howard.
Steve, I think I know the answer to this question, but what do you think of Cameron Brate?
It's going to be a great week. I know, deep down in my heart. It's going to end up being just because that's just the type of season O.J. Howard has been having.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Jeff, tight end. Who's the chalk?
I mean, it definitely could be a great week with those receivers hurt. You never know. You just don't know what's going on with the tight end. How is O.J. Howard not on your not playlist yet, by the way, considering the season? I'm going to take it too. I feel like people will finally buy in here to what's going on, and he'll become the Uber chalk kind of play. Kittle obviously is going to garner a lot of ownership, but he's $1,500 more expensive, so people probably try and fit in a couple of the higher owned guys. I'll go with Higbee here, whose target share has been really insane. I mean, basically leading the Rams in target share over the last 3 games, so definitely should garner a lot of ownership.
All right, thanks, guys. You are free to go. We're hitting the hardwood one last time with Greg Ehrenberg right after a Sunday night showdown preview, courtesy of our friends at KFC.
The West champion Chiefs will try to extend their winning streak to 5 in Chicago against a Bears team that's really just kind of playing out the string, I guess. This is the Sunday Night Showdown series presented by KFC. Adam Kaufman, Reed Fowler. That in and of itself is a pun. I'm not going to go there. Reed, I'm sure there are plenty of excellent options for your Colonel's pick, your captain spot. What do you got?
Yeah, it's going to be David Montgomery, the running back with Chicago. Look, he hasn't really been that good this season. Clearly, he's a rookie. He needs to get into the swing of things.
Sure.
But it's volume-based running backs against Kansas City. They give up the 3rd most fantasy points to that position. And when you see Kansas City, look, their defense actually has been pretty strong over the last couple of games. Their secondary has become, can we say, elite or close to it?
Why not?
Right.
They haven't. We want.
Exactly. And a lot of times when you look at that defense, right, they're just funneling it to the run. Their run defense can't stop anyone. Montgomery, the Chicago Bears, they're going to have to give it to the running back. See volume a lot with Montgomery. Give me him as a captain because I want to save, potentially get those other guys in the.
Okay, I might have ordinarily expected a Chiefs player, just given prolific offense versus what the Bears have to work with. That in mind, though, are you gonna stack? Are we gonna flock anyone together here?
Yeah. Look, you want to get those high ceiling guys, right? That's the Chiefs. It's the Patrick Mahomes. We saw what he was able to do in the snow, and Tyreek Hill, and he's going to be the guy that I want to feature here in this stack. I want to save that captain and go to those guys because Hill, if you look at the Chicago defense in that secondary, strong to give the 8th fewest points to receivers, but when speedy guys hit, it's going to be tough for those secondary players or players in that secondary to keep up with him. They just gave up 2 players back-to-back games over 100 yards in Gallup and Devontae Adams. Look for Hill to actually do pretty well in this game.
All right, so no stack, no flock, but hey, we're still together. That's going to do it for the latest edition of the Sunday Night Series. KFC's beloved chicken and waffles are back, and now they got a kick. Enjoy Nashville hot chicken and waffles if you're feeling spicy, or maybe stick to classic chicken and waffles if you're feeling, well, not spicy, I suppose. Order online or get them delivered at kfc.com.
Final block of the show. We made it. TGIF, am I right? DraftKings contributor Greg Ehrenberg is here for NBA. What are the odds? Where we take a look at some interesting sportsbook plays on tonight's 10-game slate. Are you ready, Greg?
I hope so. Last segment of the show, so hopefully I don't bomb.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. Fingers crossed. All right, Wizards are visiting the Raptors tonight. Can Toronto cover the 7-point spread?
So given all the injuries that the Raptors have right now, I understand the Wizards aren't very good, but still, the Raptors, they're without Pascal Siakam, they're without Marc Gasol, Fred VanVleet is questionable, Norman Powell's out. It's hard for me to really see them running away with this game, even though they've been so much better than the Wizards for the season. So I'm going to lean towards the Wizards and the points here, and I would be pretty surprised if this line doesn't tighten up a little bit as we get closer to the game.
Another injury-prone team, the Celtics hosting the Pistons. The points total for this one is 214.5. Do you think it's going over or under that mark?
So it's a low total, but I'm going to go with the under just because given all of the injuries that the Pistons have, also it's not only the Celtics that are banged up. I really think that the Pistons are going to have to get the ball down low to Andre Drummond. They're going to run it to him in the post a lot, and that's just going to overall slow down the pace of the game a lot. I don't really see them pushing the pace much.
All right, Mavericks at 76ers. Greg, can Philly cover the 8-point spread?
Yeah, so another banged-up team. We have the Mavericks don't have Luka Doncic for this game. Now, I understand the last couple of games without Luka, they've played really well, but I don't really think it's that sustainable. Kristaps Porzingis has played really well. I think he's a DFS play for tonight. But still, missing Luka is such a big deal for them. Delon Wright's played valuable minutes off the bench, and he's also questionable to play tonight, so even more injuries for the Mavericks. So I think there's a pretty good chance that the 76ers just end up blowing this one out.
The Warriors are taking on the Pelicans at home. Over or under 225.5, Greg?
Yeah, so I think this should be a really high-scoring game. I don't really understand why the total is – I mean, it's not really a low total. It's pretty high, but I think it should be higher. If we look at these teams so far for the year, Pelicans playing the second fastest pace in the league. The Warriors are playing the 11th fastest pace. Both of them are awful on defense. Neither of them could stop anybody. So for that reason, I think it should be a really high-scoring back-and-forth game.
Slate approved pick time, Greg. Who is your lock on tonight's 10-game NBA slate?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with another Raptors player here. I mentioned a couple of them at the top of the show. And Chris Boucher is only 3,300. He's a per-minute fantasy monster. He scores about 1.13 fantasy points per minute. And he just has to play minutes with all the injuries in the Raptors front court. We've seen Boucher score as many as 30 fantasy points in under 20 minutes. So he doesn't need to be on the court for very much time to have a big game. He could be starting. Even if he doesn't start, he's going to come off the bench, probably play somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 minutes. Should be enough playing time for him to smash.
All right, Greg, thank you so much. You did a great job. You didn't bomb in the last segment of the show.
It's subjective. I don't know if that's totally true.
No, you didn't. I get to be the decider. All right, thank you so much, Greg. Appreciate it. And that is the show, folks. The Sweat will be back Sunday morning at 11:30. We'll take you all the way up until kickoff at 1. You definitely want to tune in. Going to be a lot of fun. See you on Sunday.